Okay, so I want to ask you something. When you think about an indoor security camera, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Probably just a fixed lens pointing at a corner somewhere, right? Maybe a little blinking red light. That's kind of the default image, but honestly, that's pretty outdated at this point. I recently set up the Navel Camera Gear SE1 in my home, and it kind of changed how I think about what an indoor camera should actually do. This thing rotates, it tracks movement on its own, the image is generally sharp, and there's a privacy feature that I have never seen done quite like this before. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the whole experience. What is it like to actually live with this camera day to day? And yes, with 9 cats in the house, I have a pretty solid testing environment. Let's get into it. Let me give you a bit of context first, because I think it actually matters. I have 9 cats, 9, and when I'm out of the house, I generally don't know what's happening in there. Are they okay? Is someone stuck somewhere? Did something get knocked off a shelf? There are the kind of thoughts that just sit in the back of your head. So for me, an indoor camera has never really been about security in the traditional sense. It's more about just being able to check in, open my phone, see what's going on, close it, simple. But most cameras I've tried before were kind of annoying in practice. Either the image was too blurry to see anything useful when I zoom in, or I have to manually move the view around, or I just felt uncomfortable having something always watching in my own living space. So going into this, those were my three main questions. How clear is the image? Does it actually follow movement on its own? And is there a real way to turn it off when I don't need it? I will cover all three. Alright, image quality first, because this is honestly where the Navel stood out immediately. This is a 2.5K camera with 4 megapixel sensor, which puts it above the standard 180p you get in most entry-level indoor cameras. But what does that actually mean when you're using it? I zoomed in on one of my cats sitting across the room, and the level of the detail was actually surprising. Individual fur texture is visible, whiskers are clear, I can see the grain of the floorboards in the background. With older 180p cameras, zooming in even slightly gives you this mushy, pixelated result where you can tell something is there, but you can't really see what it is. The camera also supports 4x digital zoom, and that level it stays useful. Not sharp as the native view, obviously, but useful. That word is the benchmark for me with digital zoom. For practical purpose, this matters most when something actually happens and you need to look closely at footage. The auto tracking feature was probably the one I was most curious about, and honestly a bit skeptical of, because I've seen this advertised on cheaper cameras and it's usually laggy and jerky and ends up being more distracting than useful. So I actually test this properly. I walk back and forth across the room, I let the cats do whatever they wanted, which naturally means they went in every direction. The camera does 360 degrees horizontal rotation and 95 degrees of vertical tilt. In practice, that means there's basically no blind spot in the standard room, and the tracking itself is smooth. It doesn't snap or jerk, it just stays with whatever is moving at a natural pace. The thing I noticed most about this feature is how much it changed the experience of just opening the live feed. Before, with a fixed camera, I would open it, scan around manually to find where the cats were, adjust the angle. Here, I just open it and the camera is already facing whatever's moving. That removes friction in a way that makes me actually use it more often. Two-way audio is the kind of feature I expected to mostly ignore. It felt like a nice to have, something you would use once and then forget about. And then it actually came in handy in a pretty random way. I was out that day and I just opened the app to check on things. And I tapped the mic button in the app and said, my voice came out of the camera speaker right away, and my cat stopped, turned around, and stared directly at the camera. It actually worked. Now, that's a small thing, but it's the kind of small thing that changes how you think about camera. It stops being passive, just sitting there recording, and becomes something you can actually interact with. There's also a voice changer built into the app, which I will admit I mostly use to see how the cats will react to a different voice coming from the same direction. but it could generally be useful if you're using the camera to check on kids or other situations where you will want a bit more flexibility. Night vision is always one I have to test myself because it's one of those features that looks great in product photos and then disappointed in actual use. Here's what I did. I turned off every light in the room, completely dark. My own eyes could barely see across the room. Then I opened the app. The infrared night vision covers about 10 meters, which is more than enough for the typical indoor room. On the app screen, I could see the entire space clearly. The layout, the furniture is black and white, and that's how infrared works, but it's detailed and sharp. What I appreciate most is that it's fully automatic. The camera detects the ambient light level and switches to night vision on its own. No mode to enable, no setting to change, it just works when it needs to. For the multi-cat household, this actually matters a lot. A large part of whatever cats get up to happens at night. Now I can see it, which is either reassuring or concerning depending on what they are doing. This is the feature I think deserves the most attention, and it's also the reason I'm generally comfortable keeping this camera setup long term. Most smart cameras have some kind of privacy mode. Usually it's a software switch, a digital black screen, which on some level is fine. But you're trusting something invisible. You can't confirm it's actually off. This camera does it differently. When you activate private mode in the app, the lens physically tilts down until it's completely covered. You can see it happen. That's a mechanical cover that blocks the lens entirely. The camera literally cannot see anything in this state. When I'm home, I don't want it watching, not software off, actual off. This does that. And being able to look at the camera and physically see that the lens is covered gives you a kind of confidence that a software toggle just doesn't. I've talked to people who won't have indoor cameras at all because of this exact concern. The feeling of being monitored in your own place, the physical privacy mode is the answer to that concern. A few more product things worth knowing. Setup is fast. The camera pairs via Bluetooth first, which means you don't have to manually enter Wi-Fi credentials on some tiny interface. The whole process from box to live feed takes under 3 minutes. For Wi-Fi, it supports both 2.5 and 5 GHz bands. I've been running it on 5 GHz and the live feed loads without lag, no buffering. If your router is further away, 2.4 GHz gives you better range. Having both options just removes a potential compatibility issue for different setups. For storage, there's local recording on a TF card up to 255 gigabits. No mandatory subscription. Cloud is available if you want it, but you're not locked into it. I strongly prefer cameras that give you this choice. And it integrates with Alexa and Google Assistant if you're already in a smart home setup. I've been using it through the Navel app, which is clean and doesn't feel overcomplicated. Alright, so where does this land overall? For what it costs, the Navel Camera Care SE1 hits the things that actually matters. The 2.5K resolution is a genuine improvement in real use, not just on a spec sheet. The auto tracking works and makes the daily experience frictionless. Two-way audio is more than useful than I expected. Night vision is solid and automatic. And the physics privacy mode is the kind of feature that makes you trust the product enough to actually keep it running. If you have pets, if you live alone and want to keep an eye on your space, or if you just want something that feels like a tool you are in control of rather than something watching you, I think this is worth considering. Navel is a new brand, but it comes from Dreamy's engineering team, and you can feel that in the build and the feature design. It focuses on doing the core things well and adds a privacy solution that's actually different from what everyone else is doing. Links is in the description if you want to check it out. Drop any questions in the comments and I will answer what I can. See you in the next one.